You're listening to Change Your POV Podcast, episode 77.
And that's a great question. For me, I'll be honest, I love being fit for me. And there are times I really, like I said, not to beat a dead horse, but I have to be introspective to say, am I working out so that, that when I take off my shirt, people are like, wow, dude's pretty shredded? Or am I doing it because I'm like, you know what? I got this shredded because I wanted to be fit, healthy, and eat.
Welcome to Change Your POV Podcast, helping you navigate transitions in your life, like entering and exiting college or the military, changing jobs or careers, and providing you with the coaching and mentorship needed to help you advance in your personal or professional life. Sometimes all you need is to change your point of view. Now, here's your host, Eddie Lazary.
We are sitting down with Thom Walters. Thom is a fellow podcaster and author. He authored a book, Discovering Joy and From Losing to Living. You can check those out over at the show notes page for this episode at changeyourpov.com/episode 77. He's also the host of a podcast. Actually, it's two podcasts in one, Zen Commuter and 5 Minute Mojo. So he really capitalizes on those commuters out there that are driving to and from work on a daily show, Monday through Friday. And he's also a member of my mastermind group. I met Thom through my mastermind group, who you've heard on previous episodes. I've talked with a good buddy of mine, Lee Mowat, where we talk about mastermind groups. Well, Thom is a member of that group, and we meet every single week, and we talk about business strategies, podcasting, tips, tricks, all different kinds of things. What's nice about these mastermind groups, it gives me the opportunity to get to know a little bit more about not only Thom, but what he's doing for his business. And since Bennett and I are undergoing this 30-day well-fit challenge, where we're not only changing our diet and changing our exercise and changing different habits in our life, we're also doing whatever we can in the way of self-actualization and coming to grips with our own selves by way of different methods, and meditation is one of those. And I know that Thom is very well astute to this particular topic, both in fitness and in meditation. So I said, hey, why not? Thom, why don't you come on the show and talk to us about everything that you guys talk about over on your show, Zen Commuter. So with that said, please enjoy this interview. I know that Bennett and I had a great time talking with Thom, and it spurred a lot of motivation in us. And as a matter of fact, Bennett and I talk about meeting for the first time halfway between where we live to go to a monastery to do some meditation. That's on the books. We're going to be doing that soon. And once we do, we're actually going to meet up afterwards, after we get done with our meditation that day, and probably have an in-person live podcast interview that I hope you all will enjoy. So without further ado, let's head on over and listen to this fantastic interview with Thom. Hello, folks, and welcome to Change Your POV Podcast. I'm your host, Eddie Lazary.
And I am Bennett Tanton.
And today we are sitting down with a fellow podcaster and good friend and mastermind compadre of mine. Mr. Thom Walters is the host of Zen Commuter, and he's going to share with us everything that he knows. No, he's going to share with us a lot of information, particularly around the 30-day well-fit challenge that Bennett and I are currently undertaking. And for those of you that are following along are very familiar with the 30-day well-fit challenge. And so we brought on some experts, or we're trying to bring on more experts around fitness and health and diet and exercise and all of that, because although Bennett and I know a lot, there's a lot we don't know. And so we want to bring on some guests that know more about this kind of stuff than we do to kind of help us along our journey. So welcome to the show, Thom.
Oh, thank you so much. I am very happy to be here. And I think it's going to be best for all of us to figure out. My mom has a quote. She's like, the wisest of us all realize that we know nothing. So I totally hear you. I'm like, I know a lot, but I don't know it all. But the stuff I don't know, I find out about. And just like we were talking about pre-interview, I am loving finding out more and more about gut health, mental health, all sorts of things that impact our level of fitness. So I am very happy to be here. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for inviting me on the show.
That's awesome. So before we get into any questions, just kind of share with the listeners a little bit about you, your background, where you come from, and how you created Zen Commuter and why.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. I get that a lot, and I'm always happy to talk about it because ever since I was 16, I've been meditating. I remember when I was 16 growing up, my mom had a group of people come into the house to teach her and her friends how to meditate, and it was really cool. And I remember sitting at the steps, at the bottom of the steps, like right outside the room where they were meeting. And I was just listening. I was drinking in everything. I'm like, oh, man, that sounds so cool. These people sound so together. They just seem so kind and loving and nice. And they just have it all together. I'm like, man, I wish I could do that. And my mom was kind of, I don't know if she was being territorial and I definitely know that's not the case. But I remember her saying, at one point, she's like, you've been kind of at the bottom of the steps for a long time. Do you want to join the group? I'm like, oh, hell yeah. So that was my introduction to meditation. So I had a great bunch of teachers teaching me meditation and all the different things that came around with that. So I've been meditating since I was 16 and I have been continuing obviously since that point, and I'm no longer 16 and a couple decades. But the good news is it is still one of the best tools in my arsenal for everything when it comes down to fitness. Wow, Freud would have a field day with that one.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
fitness and health, and just peace of mind. So that's how the meditation part came in. And I've had a whole bunch of experiences talking with my spirit guide that I eventually met when I was 17, 18. But so fast forward about, I'd say about 8 years ago, I had been working at Fidelity, and I'd been there for 11 years. And I went in there on a Sunday. It was just a regular Sunday. I think it was in the fall. And I got some work done. It was like a busy time, and I'm just trying to get caught up. I was the only one in the office. And I just went in. I'm like, you know what? It's just going to be quiet. I'm just going to get some work done. So I get all my work done. I'm typing away, and it got to be like 2 o'clock. And I remember in my mind asking the question, I'm like, am I done? Meaning with the work that day. And then this voice in my head said, yeah, you're done. And I'm like, and it didn't seem like the normal, like, yeah, I think you're done for the day. It was definitely my guide or my higher self or one of my higher selves saying, you're done. I'm like, do you mean the done that I think you mean? Like, yeah, it's time to move on. Like, oh, okay, cool. Do you want to be here? I'm like, I don't. This isn't anything that has passion for me. This is a paycheck. And to be honest with you, I'm here on a Sunday because I can't get it done all during the week. So I have to do something else. And this voice said, well, what do you want that to be? I'm like, I got to write a book. I got to help people realize that there's more to life than just sitting behind a computer doing something that doesn't have any meaning for you. And that's not to denigrate anybody that does computer work. If like you're behind a computer and it's absolutely something you do that you love and it's your passion, then I'm like, oh yeah, stick with it and dig it. But as research shows us, like 70% of the workforce is unengaged, meaning 30% of them are just doing what I was doing, just trying to get a paycheck. And 40% are actually saying, this really sucks and I got to get out of here. So that's a pretty nasty number. So I was thinking about it, I'm like, even though I'm in this job and it's serving me right now and it's not serving me overall, I'm a pretty chill guy. And I've had the benefit of meditation. I've had the benefit of guys that have brought me to places that I needed to be. And in this instance, saying, coming to me on that day to say, it's time to go. I'm like, yeah, I think you're right. I think it's time to let the world know that my vision, my message needs to get out there. And it's not going to get out there by doing payroll, by doing benefits, computer setup. So it's time to go. So I remember sitting back down. I had literally gotten up out of my desk, and I'm like, oh, I guess it's ready to go. And we were having this talk, and all this talk is going on in my psyche and in my head while I'm standing up. And I'm like, I think it is time. So I sat back down, opened up Word, and just drafted a resignation letter to my boss. And it wasn't, I'm angry, I'm hateful. I'm like, you know what? Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been a great ride. I've really enjoyed my time here. I've met some great people, but it's time for me to move on. It's time for me to do some different things. So with that, I put it under my boss's door and just went home. And when I closed that door, I'm like, wow, this is it.
Wow. This just happened.
I'm like, I do that? Like, and obviously we get that first bit of like, oh, shice, what did I just do? But then after like 5 seconds, I'm like, you know what you did, and you know you wanted to do it, and you know it's what you're meant to do. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I slept like a baby that night. So,
well, you realize you did what so many people listening to this right now like wished they could do, right?
Well, I definitely had the impetus, and I totally hear that. And it's funny because part of me is like, it's no thing. And then part of me is like, yeah, dude, that was a thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's a freaking thing.
Right? It's so funny. We think, and I talk about this on Zen Commuter all the time, there's so many things we do every day that we just do so expertly because we've been doing it for so long that we don't think it's any big thing. So whether it be like, and I think I give this example, if anybody that's flying on vacation and they happen to look into the pilot's, the pilot's room that's flying the plane, you're like, oh my God, how could anybody ever master that? That is absolutely impossible to ever fly. I could never do that. But then you ask the pilot that's been doing it for like 20 years, like, oh, dude, it's nothing.
Right.
Yeah, like,
so,
I can do it with my eyes closed. Yes,
but
like literally.
Yeah, all he's got to do is hit a switch.
Right. Man.
So how did podcasting come to be?
So here's the thing, drawing into the fitness and the thing. So my first book, Discovering Joy, I said that was my book that I wrote to help get my message out. But once I left Fidelity, even though I had a sizable 401k, I didn't want to piss it away, staying alive.
Right.
I kind of need to do something else. I'm like, what do I like to do? I'm like, wow, I've been lifting ever since I was 16. I love doing that. I love being healthy and fit. So I said, you know what? I'll become a personal trainer. So for the next 4 months, I took out some money from my 401k and invested in certification with ACE and became a personal trainer, which allowed me to work whenever I wanted. And then in the interim, I'd work. So I'd work in the morning, personal training, go home in the afternoon, write a couple chapters, go back in the evening for some training, and then that was it. So that was how I got the fitness aspect of it. But as many of my listeners know, and yours obviously don't, at one point I'd been at the gym for about 7 years, and something happened. I was respected by my peers, by my clients. Everybody loved me there. And at one point, the fitness director brought me into his office. He's like, I heard from one of your clients that you double booked a session, and that's not really something that we like to do. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, don't worry about it, dude. I already talked to him. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, I gave them a free session, and I said, we can reschedule anytime it's beneficial for you. And for whatever reason it is, he's like, well, that's not going to be good enough. We're going to need to let you go. I'm like, what?
Wow.
So for the next 3 days, I was absolutely pissed. I'm like, oh, man, I gave you guys 7 years of my life. Oh, I have helped so many people, and this is how you're paying me? And then I just got back to what I normally do. So once I got done with the humanness of being pissed, I said, okay, let's just meditate. Let's figure out what's really going on. And so obviously I talked to Bart, my spirit guide, and he's like, dude, you got yourself fired, right? I'm like, no, I didn't get myself fired. He's like, oh, relax, Pesky, relax. Let me figure it. Let me get a word in edgewise here, will you? He's like, you didn't do it with your actions. He's like, you did it with your energy. He's like, just like when you were at Fidelity, when you made the decision to leave, this was your soul making the decision to leave. You couldn't go any further with your message. You did a great job getting people healthier and also putting your message in that training. But now it's time for you to be bigger. And I mean, reach a bigger audience. And I mean the biggest audience, the world. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. He's like, that may sound scary, but he's like, it's in your soul. It's in who you are to get this done. And that's why you put this in your energy, whether it was that one incident. You, of course, know that it wasn't that one incident, but your energy was in such a way to facilitate that being fired. So you consciously didn't get fired, but your energy says, you know what? And your soul said, it's time to move on. So you can take this as any way you want. You can be bitter, angry, hateful, and continue to be pissing and spewing. Or you can say, you know what? Thanks, guys. Thanks for pushing me. I'm on my own.
Right.
So that's exactly what I did. So just like that before, my 401k was still there, but I'm like, oh, I don't want to keep dipping into that. So I'm like, let me just get a job doing some stuff that I know, HR and payroll stuff. Like, let me just grab like 10 hours a week, 15 hours a week, doing that, just to have money coming in. So I always have money coming in while I'm getting the book published, while I'm doing all these other things. So at one point, I had never had a commute before. Fidelity was one exit down, and the gym was one exit. Well, actually, it wasn't even one exit. It was down the street. So I never had a commute in my entire life. So this first job I got doing payroll was just like going down to Bedford, Mass, and which was about 20 miles away, 20, 25 miles away, and it should have been only half an hour. So I remember getting in my car. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm like, is this a parking lot or am I on the highway?
Right.
So I'm like, holy crap, this sucks. Why do people do this? And I remember getting like a little anxious and like totally on me. I'm like, okay, yeah, I got to be there in a half an hour and I have moved about 3 miles. This is not good. So I'm stressing. Long story short, I was late, came back. I'm like, same thing, which has always served me. I'm like meditating. I'm like, what am I supposed to learn? I'm like, dude, you got to find a way to relax. If you're going to do this, you got to find a way to chill out. And he's like, you're a pretty chill guy. So if you're having trouble, then there are tons of people that are in the exact same boat. It's like, what do you do to chill out? I'm like, well, I listen to some podcasts, but he's like, so be a podcaster. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, help people get through their commute. Help them realize that time that they're in their car, they don't have to piss it away listening to hateful talk radio or like absolutely banal pop music. They can use that time to become better. And you can relearn the things that you need to learn to be better and to chill out. And that way it becomes a better ride for you and it becomes a better ride for everybody else. So that is the birth, long story, of Zen Commuter.
And how long ago was that now?
That was 2 years ago, April 19th, roughly.
Wow. And you've got a daily show, right?
I do. I've got 2 daily shows. I've started, I had Zen Commuter about a year and a half ago, and then I just added 5 Minute Mojo for the evening commute. I was thinking I hook people up on their way to work, but I'm thinking they might need it a little bit more to get home. So we got 5 Minute Mojo, too.
That's very cool, man. So has it been everything that you thought it would be, or has it been something different than when you first started out?
Well, as I'm sure you guys can attest, when you start out, I'm like, how the hell do you do this?
Right.
Yeah.
I remember my first couple of shows, and I am so scared to even listen to my first couple of shows. I'm like, oh my God, I bet I sounded like an idiot.
We all do.
Right, exactly. Now, you guys know it. I know it now. It's just like, good evening and welcome to Zen Commuter. Just like rolls off my tongue. I've been doing it so long. Just like the pilot in the plane. It's like I've been doing it for so long. It's just seems easy to do. But the first time you're like, what the heck is a mixer? I'm like, what is GarageBand? What is Audacity? I'm like, why does it sound like I'm like in a wind tunnel when I talk? I'm like, this sound sounds horrible. So getting past that was the tough part, trying to figure out ways to sound good. And obviously now the sound is good, and I've got a format that I have, and that's the other thing too, is just finding out what's going to work. So it's always been great. Sometimes I always get excited by learning, so I never get been like, oh my God, it was the worst and it was terrible, and like I'm like, no, was it tough? I'm like, yeah, well, it was kind of tough. I learned stuff that I didn't know, but as overwhelming as that was, I got it done, and I dig learning every time. That's why I tell listeners I love the show so much. Like, I tell you the show's for you, but I got to tell you, I'm like, I learn a lot of stuff, and we learn a lot of stuff together when I do the show. So
right, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
definitely can't stop learning. Like I mean, we have, the random guests, and I know you do the same thing. We'll have this random guest on just because you like read a book and you're like, hey, that's like kind of a cool subject. Let's have this guy on the show, or, something along those lines, or you reach out to him just to find out more, because it's all about constant learning.
And that's the greatest thing about this. And I feel very humbled and very privileged for that. And it sounds like you guys and I have the same kind of viewpoint. I'm like, huh. In fact, I was listening to a great podcast called The One You Feed. I don't know if you guys know about that.
Never heard of it.
It's a great podcast, and it's based on a parable about two wolves, and I'll let them talk about that. But basically, he has a whole bunch of different guests on that talk about ways, just like we do, about making your life a little bit calmer and a little bit more, a little bit better. So I remember him having a guest on who talked about a fixed state of mind and a changed state of mind, and how having one of those two things either serves you or doesn't. A fixed state of mind says, I'm no good I can do this, I can't do this, and that's how it is. So if you ask me to do something I can't do, then I'm screwed, and I'm just going to fail every time. But a changed sort of mind says, I don't know this yet, but I bet I can learn that. So, some people have one, some people have the other. So it's great to find guests, and like this one. And I sent out an email the other day to say, I'm like, wow, that's a cool topic. I'm like, you know what? He did a great job talking about it, but I'm like, I want to know more. So I sent out an email to the woman who wrote the book called Mindset and asked her to be on the show. And so to your point, I'm like, if I come across something like, oh, that's neat, I'm like, I got to know about that. I bet, let's see, who knows about this best? I'm like,
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Right.
So getting into mindset, right? Bennett and I, as you know, started 2 weeks ago a 30-day WellFit challenge. And it encompasses, everything. When I mean everything, I mean literally it's a change in lifestyles, what we're going after. And so we wanted it to change our diet. We wanted to change our health. We wanted to eat clean, and we wanted to exercise and, not experiment, maybe it's the wrong word, but get into different states of mind by way of learning different techniques and include meditation, things like that. But before we get down any of those questions, I'm curious to hear what your take is on the state of mind when you're going, because I mentioned, off air before we started recording that there's been many times in my life where I've attempted different diets or challenges or plans or workout regimes or whatever it is. I bought the P90X, right? And I think, Bennett, you did the same thing. And we, I've always been on this kick where I think I want to do something, and I go and get the stuff that I think I want to do. And then when I start it, for whatever reason, my heart isn't in it. And a lot of it is because I think that a lot of those prior attempts were kind of spurred on by other people in my life, or perhaps maybe somebody that I know mentioned it. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of jealous. I want to try that too. And then it just always seemed to kind of fail for a lot of different reasons. But I think one of those main ones is the fact that I just wasn't in the right state of mind for myself entering that challenge. What would you say about that?
Well, first off, kudos, guys, for saying, you know what? This has to end. I want to change, and this is what I'm going to do.
Enough is enough.
Right? So kudos to you guys for drawing a line in the sand and say, you know what? I'm going to change, and I'm going to get it done. So kudos to that. Now, in answer to your question, one of the things I mentioned in another book that I wrote, from Losing to Living, it talked about that very thing, that you're never going to be successful at losing weight or getting fit or whatever your goals are if they're not for you. If they don't resonate with your values, you can try everything from P90X to eating watermelon to ingesting cockroaches. Nothing is going to work until you say, I'm doing this for me. And you have to connect with your why. And that's a big thing. And a lot of times, one of the things I talk about on Zen Commuter all the time is really finding that introspective time to see when your life is being run by somebody else and when your life is being run by you. And that's why I'm such a huge proponent of meditation and introspection, because we have so many things bombarding us every day, different messages from society telling us to look this way, to be this way, to have shiny teeth, to be smiling in your new car. And if you don't have time to just realize, am I responding to a marketer's ploy, or am I really doing things that are going to be beneficial for me? That's when you really see the changes you're going to make. So to your point, Ed, if it's not for you, it's not going to happen. So you might have seen some guy and were like, wow, dude's pretty jacked. I wish I could look like that. And, whether it be your wife or your friends, like, dude, you're kind of getting a little soft. You might want to think of like, it doesn't mean anything until you look in the mirror and say, and whether it be weight or fitness. And that's, just a quick breakaway. I'm like, I tell people, I don't give a rat's ass how big you are. If you're healthy and happy and live a life and are able to do all the things you want to do, then stop worrying about whether you have six-pack abs or that sleek, sexy, curvy body. I'm like, wow, what a crock of shit. Ooh, sorry. Cut that out.
Oh no,
cut that out.
No.
Trust me,
good.
I'm so bad. You have no idea.
Yeah, you would.
I drop F-bombs like they're like.
So Bennett was in the Marine Corps and the Army, but you would have thought that he was in the Navy.
They're funny.
For a long time.
You like that?
Well, the Marine Corps is the men's department of the Navy. So.
That's true.
Oh,
Yeah.
so I'm good. So I don't have to blush anymore.
No, man.
And if I can blush at 52, that's saying something.
So how do you? I totally agree. Well, first of all, I gotta say, I like your comment about it doesn't matter how big you are if you're happy with. So when Bennett and I first started this, we both, and we talked about this. And Bennett, you can, butt in or interrupt me anytime you want. But we talked about, we are so sick of the, the rock hard abs and the beach. And nothing against. I'm not talking about a brand beach body, but I'm talking about
for everyday people.
Right. Yep.
Right. It just isn't, right? And, as much as I might like six-pack abs and all of that, that's not the point. I just want to get to the point where I'm comfortable in my own skin again. Right. And I want to be able to do things that I know I can and that I have in my head and I have in my heart. And I'm not there yet. And that's where I want to be. And it's not about it's not the washboard abs and all of that, and I'm not taking anything away from people that's about that,
nope.
That they're about that, and that's fine if that's what they want.
Right.
And so you made the second good point, and as you've got it, want it for yourself. So as clear cut as that might sound on paper, it's not as easy to do in practicality, right? In real life. So how does somebody that's thinking about wanting to do something, how do they legitimately know that it's really something that they want to do and isn't just something that they've, like you said, kind of been gotten, whiplashed by a marketer down the road that are just not aware of it?
Right, exactly. And that's a great question. For me, I'll be honest. I'm like, I love being fit for me. And there are times I really, like I said, not to beat a dead horse, but I have to be introspective to say, am I working out so that, that when I take off my shirt, people are like, wow, dude's pretty shredded? Or am I doing it because I'm like, you know what? I got this shredded because I wanted to be fit, healthy, and eat the way I want to eat that's going to give me energy. So to be honest with you, it's still something I work on every time. I'm like, okay, make sure that you're doing this for you. And, obviously working out for me has become, second nature. So if I miss 2 days in a row, I'm like, I start twitching. But to your point, one of the first chapters in my book, From Losing to Living, I talk about that. In fact, I go through a meditation for people. And I tell you what, I will extract that chapter from the book and I'll send it to you, and you can actually make it available to your listeners so that they can avail themselves to that. So,
that's cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And the reason I do that is because it's a great answer to your question. The meditation really has you looking at, metaphysically and, introspectively as to why you're doing what you're doing. And the meditation goes through listening to your inner voice and seeing if your inner voice is indeed your inner voice, meaning your higher self, or if you're responding to your husband or wife saying, hey, wow, I love you, you big fat piece of what. I'm like, hey. Or if you're, like you said, looking at those ads, you're like, oh, the only way to be a member of society that is legitimate is to have six-pack abs. I'm like, the hell with you.
Right.
So this meditation will help. But I think spending some time, and with any question, I tell people that a lot, we're so unused to being quiet and silent. And a lot of times there are ways to get answers to even the simplest questions, because all the answers that we look for in our life are in who we are. And the only thing that keeps us away from that is either our own desire to not hear those answers. And you might think, well, that's kind of weird. Well, no, a lot of people grow up with a lot of negative baggage. So when they think that they quiet their mind, they're going to hear the inner dialogue, which is the people that say, hey, why aren't you like your sister? You know, yeah, your job's kind of useless. Or you're hearing that negative loop going over and over and over. And people think, if I quiet my mind, that's what I'm going to hear. So no. I'm going to keep playing Angry Birds. I'm going to keep going to movies. I'm going to keep drinking. And I never want to hear those sounds. But to that point, to that detriment, if you are able to separate the inner voice from the inner dialogue, you realize that there's just such a font of wisdom that exists in all of us that has the answers to absolutely everything. So in regards to this, there are times that I will just lie on my bed. If I have questions about anything, and taking this example, I'll just lie on my bed and I'll be like, why do I want to get fit? And you just quiet your mind. And it's not as easy as it seems at first, because obviously I've been meditating for a while, and it is a form of meditation, but you just quiet your mind and you just listen for all the answers, and they'll come. And they'll come fast, they'll come furious, and you might have to be like, whoa, slow down. And again, that's a training process. And I definitely talk about it in a course that I'm working on right now. But if you quiet yourself down and literally ask a question, because nobody really asks questions of themselves about the things that are important. And that was actually one of the reasons that I created 5 Minute Mojo, so that people could spend time coming back from work being introspective. Could be because at the end of every episode, I have a question of the day that asks people things that are going to make them think about, why do I do that? Why does this mean something to me? And it really has them thinking. And to that point, you can do that at any time. Just lay on your bed or in a chair, or just someplace quiet, and just say, why do I want to get fit? And if you see images of six-pack abs and, sexy women and jacked guys, and that really isn't you. But if you see yourself playing with your kids, if you see yourself running to catch a bus or running to catch the dog, and you can, images that are going to connect to you are going to be like, yeah, this is why I'm doing it. But if you're looking at things outside of who you are, then obviously your motivation might be something you want to look at.
Yeah, so let's talk really quick about meditation. And I've heard the word meditation, obviously I think everyone's heard the word, and many people, depending on how they're raised, get a different kind of interpretation of that word meditation. I grew up in a religious Christian home, and I'll be honest, pretty sheltered, so to speak, small town, didn't have a whole lot of exposure to the world. And I hear a word like meditation, and I instantly think that's something that's, ritualistic.
Sinner.
It's maybe right. I'm a sinner, right? And that's, I think of cults and, all this drinking the Kool-Aid and all that, right? And so, so it took a long time into my adulthood to recognize that meditation isn't it has nothing really to do, and I can't say it's completely separate from the spirituality. It could definitely be intertwined, but meditation in and of itself, on its face, is really about introspection of oneself, right? And it's really, all religion aside and all of that, woo-woo stuff, as Bennett would say.
Right.
We move all that aside. Really, meditation is nothing more than finding time to be silent and listen to yourself. It's unplugging yourself, and this is what I've learned, unplugging yourself from the everyday happenstance of life, right? And giving yourself and your mind time to kind of clear away and be retrospective in one's thinking. Now, am I on the spot with that, or am I kind of a loose cannon? You're the expert here. Help me figure out people that are out there listening to this that might be perhaps scared away by the word meditation because they think, well, it's just not for me. Is it for everyone? And if so, then and how and why?
It is absolutely, positively for everyone. And I mean that from kids in grade school to people that are taking their last breath. There have been so many proven benefits of meditation, literally in the thousands, the benefits of meditation. Obviously, won't go into them now, that adopting a meditation practice is probably one of the best things you can do for your complete being, regardless. So just like we were talking about before, if you want to embark on a fitness program, if you want to understand why you're here on this planet, like it all comes down to meditation. And to your point, one of the things that I address in a new course that I've got coming out next month called Real Life Calm is to address those things, because I think meditation for a lot of people is just like what you said. It just seems so mystical. And to you and Bennett's point, it's like some people think it's like, oh, it's related to the devil. I'm like, oh my gosh, not even close. It's just a way, just like you said, of being introspective. And just like the benefits, there are literally thousands of different techniques for meditation. So when people think, oh, it's this one thing, I'm like, no, there are walking meditations. There are becoming entrenched in this moment meditations. There are meditations where you talk with your spirit guide. There are meditations absolutely, for balancing your chakras, so many different things. And I think to that point, because there are so many things in it, because it's so great to a lot of people, I'm like, that's you know what? I'll leave it to those people in the Himalayas that live on mountaintops and, talk to Buddha. But to simplify it, and that's what I want to do again with this course, Real Life Calm, is to just let people know it's like, no, forget all the perceptions or misperceptions that you have. It's going to be one of the best ways to have a life that has meaning and joy. And it's not as mystical and it's not as intensive as, going on a retreat for 3 years to find out how to get it done. You can literally get it done in an afternoon, and we'll talk about that. So you're right on the nose, my friend.
That's cool. I know that one of the things that's going to happen here in the near future, and Eddie, I haven't talked to him about it yet, but
surprises.
Yeah, it's kind of a surprise.
Surprise alert.
At some point, I don't know if it'll be this fall or if it'll be in the spring. I'm going to take Eddie to the Zen Mountain Monastery in eastern New York.
Wow.
It's right outside Albany for a introduction to Zen training weekend.
Wow.
And I've got a couple of people that I know that have been to it. And it's pretty hardcore. I mean, not hardcore, but
it's kind of it really, the most loving, peaceful way ever.
Exactly. Hardcore in the most loving, peaceful way ever. It really, I guess, just kind of opens you up to the whole, they have a thing called the eight Gates program. Yeah, man, I just want to experience that place.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, let's do it.
Yeah,
I can't wait for it to hear that episode post that. You guys.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, yeah. So basically it's, seated, you learn the basics of seated meditation, and
yeah,
stuff.
and I think that's what I'm missing, because I've done, my experience, my limited experience in meditation really has been through some iPhone apps that Bennett has introduced me to in terms of guided meditation, and I've been doing some of those, and I think they're helping, but it's not that I doubt the science, and it's not that I doubt the utility of meditating. I know it works. I know that it's like very, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I have yet to experience my own epiphany with regard to meditation.
So if I think,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if I could think about 3 of the hugest misperceptions in regards to meditation, the first foremost that anybody that teaches meditation knows about meditation is it's a way to clear my mind. And people right off the bat, people are like, I can't clear my mind. I'm like, well, good, because that's not what it's about. Because guess what? Try and think about nothing.
That's impossible.
Yeah, you can't do that. But I think that's one of the hugest misperceptions. People go in and it's like, oh, it's going to be a way to clear all the thoughts out of my mind. I'm like, no. The goal is to make you not interact with those thoughts. So you're still going to have them. And you're just going to look at them like, well, it's just like, the greatest analogy is just like watching a movie. It's like watching a movie of your life. And you can, say you have a fight with your boss and you're watching on the screen and you can see all that going on, but you're just sitting in the audience eating your popcorn. You're like, that's cool. Whatever. Wow. That guy's really pissed. Right. So that's one of them. The other is, let's make sure I got all of them. So the other is that every time you meditate, you are going to have epiphanies that will change your very existence and life as you know it. I'm like, oh God, no. Have I had those? Yeah, there have been some meditations where that are still with me, that have become part of my being. And I've experienced things in my meditations that are absolutely transcendent and absolutely transformative. But for the most part, when I meditate, it'll either be just to chill out or to just access Bart on a deeper level to say, hey, yeah, this happened the other day. I'm like, I don't get it. And he's like, oh, well, did you think about this? Did you think about that? So you're not always going to have that transcendent moment every time. And you might not have them ever, but it depends on going into it with a goal. I'm like, what happens, happens. And that seems very like laissez-faire and very apathetic, but obviously that's the very root of meditation, just allowing things to unfold. You want to be structured, of course, but.
So people that are new to meditation, how like myself, how do I know when it's working or doing something different than if I hadn't meditated? I mean, I can go through the motions, but like, what are some indicators that let me know that what I'm doing isn't just smoke and mirrors and it's actually providing some value?
Right. So, and that was going to be the third point that I was going to talk about. A lot of people don't go into meditation because I don't know how to do it. I can't do it right. Well, the good news is you can't do it wrong. Anytime you stop, you've already succeeded. Anytime you close your eyes to find solace in this world, you've already succeeded. But if you're looking for something more palpable, something you can really measure, I would say for me, and obviously I've been doing it for a while, but for any time, if you're meditating in a way that you're going to be decreasing your level of stress, you can tell simply, I mean, you can do simple things like testing your pulse before going into meditation, and then when you're done, testing it again. I mean, that's literal proof to say, like, yeah, okay, my heart's beating a little slower. And that's not going to be something woo-woo or anything. In fact, I don't know if you guys have listened to the past couple of episodes of Zen Commuter. We talked about the vagus nerve and how to what meditation does from a very physiological standpoint. And I'll get into it real briefly here that we have two different nervous systems. We have the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the one that triggers our fight or flight. That's our stress response. So whenever we're faced with a fear or something that's confronting us, that part of our nervous system gets ramped up. That means our heart starts beating, we keep breathing a little faster, adrenaline is pumped into the system, and the body's literally just getting you all geared up to say, I'm going to beat the crap out of this thing or I'm going to run like hell. And the parasympathetic nervous system obviously is the relaxation response. That's the part of our body that says, okay, you know what? That bear that was right in front of us, he's gone now. We can relax. And that's the part of the body that goes back to, okay, we can ramp down the heart. We can make the breathing back, bring down to normal. We can stop pumping, adrenaline into the system. So from a physiological standpoint, when we meditate, all the meditations that we do, or most of them, are based on breathing. And I'm sure you hear a lot about that. And a lot of times, just as an aside for your listeners, that anytime that you're meditating and your mind starts to wander, the worst thing you want to do is say, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about that. I'm like, dude, just let it go. Just either address it and say, hey, I know you want my attention right now, but this is time for me, and I'll address you when I'm done. That's what I do sometimes. I'll actually literally talk to the thought, say, hey, you know what? Come back later. I'm busy. Or just like we were saying before, your mind can only have one thought at a time. So when you have a thought, you immediately bring your focus back to your breathing, back to feeling your chest rising and falling, your abdomen obviously rising and falling. And if you can only have one thought, then you're bringing yourself into this moment, into the breathing, and not worrying about all those different thoughts. So there is a physiological response that happens. So like I said, so when you're breathing through your abdomen, there are two types of breathing. We've got chest breathing, where we're like, anytime you're breathing through your chest is going to expand, your shoulders are going to go back, and you know that you're filling up the top portion of your lungs. But your diaphragm is a muscle that exists between your abdomen and your lungs. So when we're breathing through our abdomen, doing some deep breathing, some abdominal breathing, we're pulling that muscle down, which in turn is pulling the lungs, expanding the lungs from below. So we're getting more oxygen into the system. But here's the thing that makes it most beneficial. There is a nerve that runs its way through the diaphragm. It's called the vagus nerve. And what it does is it is triggered with diaphragmatic breathing. So that triggering signals back up to the brain to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So so every time you're deep breathing and keeping that rhythm that we talked about in Zen Commuter, in fact, I think it was 2 episodes ago, and I'll send you the link to that. When we have a certain rhythm, that's going to activate that parasympathetic nervous system via the vagus nerve. So there's definitely something physiological happening. So it's not just like, oh, I'm going to close my eyes and think about kittens and unicorns and everything's going to be wonderful. It's like, no, something physiological is happening.
Yeah, and I heard somebody talk about the difference between chest breathing and stomach breathing. And I remember them saying, you know, if you look at an infant, like a brand new baby, just laying there sleeping, you'll notice when you watch the baby breathing, they're breathing all through their stomach. Their stomach increases and decreases. They're not breathing with their chest, and that's the proper way to be breathing. And as adults, oftentimes we get, and I am very guilty of this myself, I do a lot of chest breathing where I'm taking, you know, shallow breaths in and out, and sometimes I got to consciously think about taking a deeper breath and actually breathing, you know, with my stomach and not in my chest. And I do notice a difference just in how calm I get, how quickly I can get calm again if I take a couple really deep belly breaths versus chest breaths. So yeah. That's cool, man.
Yeah, so there is a physiological response to that. So that's definitely a way to figure out, like, yeah, is this working? Just realizing and just doing some biofeedback and just really monitoring your body. And again, we don't do a lot of as a culture, we don't do a lot of introspection. We just kind of, that'll make me happy. That'll make me happy. Oh, I'll feel good doing that. I'm like, oh, no, just.
Yeah. and that's what I noticed too. I spent some time in South Korea and some time in Iraq. And with those two cultures, and I can only speak to those cultures because those are the only other countries I've been to. But I've heard similar things with other countries. Is a lot of the other cultures, like the South Koreans and the Iraqis, and I've even heard Afghanistan as well. They spend a lot of time in preparation of things, like preparing their food, and sometimes it's even I guess ritualistic might be a wrong word, but it's kind of done deliberately, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the listeners could probably relate to what does the Japanese do with the tea, right? That tea ceremony,
exactly.
Right? And you know, that is in and of itself a form of meditation. It's just a way to. Well, I took Taekwondo when I was little too, and we used to do the katas, the forms. And just by doing those forms and being able to control the body, control your breathing, you know, that in and of itself is a form of meditation. So there's just so many different forms of meditation. What would you recommend to those that are starting out that are interested in exploring the world of meditation and gaining some self-actualization? How do they get going? How do they start? Do they read a book? Do they try one of these iPhone apps that are out there, or they hire somebody? Like, how do you get started?
Well, best of all, and the thing, I actually, Bennett talked about this. I listened to your episode of meditation, which was awesome. And Bennett obviously went to a great source, because you definitely want to go to a source that is going to be something you can relate to, first of all. I mean, it's so funny when I do research for my book. I mean, I've got a lot of knowledge on my own, but just to get different feelers out there about what other people are looking for in meditation, you get to some sites and you're like, even for me as a meditator, I'm like, wow, that is kind of out there.
That's way out there, right?
Okay.
Even for you, that's saying something.
I was going to say, I'm like, and I'm a pretty non-judgmental guy. I'm like, yeah, whatever your path is, but wow.
Yeah.
So you got to find somebody that resonates with you, somebody whose message that resonates with you. The reason I bring up Bennett, you were great when you talked about your episode, because the book that I just finished reading, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, is by.
Oh yeah. Vishen Lekian. I've read that book as well. It's fantastic.
Isn't it awesome? I can't.
Well, were you one of the preview guys or not? Do you know? they sent me a copy that I read, and I had to they used the audience as like an editor.
Oh, no way.
Which is pretty cool. So I actually got to read it about 2 months before it even came out.
Oh, that's cool. That should be like required reading for the world. I think.
Oh yeah, it's a fantastic book.
What's the name of it again?
The Code of the Extraordinary Mind.
Okay.
And
it's by Vishen Likiani, who is the founder of Mind Valley.
Yep, exactly. And I bring up that because if you think about places that are going to be respected, but also have a focus more to mainstream, I would say like Headspace with Anthony Puddicombe, and sure. And Mind Valley with Vishen Lakiani. And again, you got to find what works for you. In helping the world become calmer, it all starts with meditation, and it helps people realize how to become introspective. And I realize, just like you had said, that so many people out there, like, I have no idea what this is. I hear people saying that it's the coolest thing ever and that I should do it, but I know I'm screwing it up, or like I don't know where to go, what to do. I can't clear my head. And there's so many questions. So I'm in the process of developing this course called Real Life Calm, and that is exactly what it does. It's looking at meditation with the focus of solving challenges that everybody has in life, whether it be anxiety, whether it be weight management, whether it be self-esteem. So
that's awesome.
yeah, I'm really excited about it.
And it's launching when?
Mid-September.
Nice. Is there any? Do you have any information about it on your website?
One of the things,
Yet?
you know what? I'll send you the link for to be added to the email list. So as updates come out, people can be kept informed about that, and they'll be obviously able to get some exclusive content as well as get a discount on it before the rest of the public does.
That's awesome.
Yes, I'll send you.
That's
that
very
link.
cool, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
So, all right, we are wow. anytime we get into these episodes, we're like digging in real deep on some really awesome stuff. It's like I look up and it's time's up. So I'm like, I definitely gonna have you on the show again, Thom, and we'll unpack some other aspects of meditation and fitness and health and all of that, because it's something that I know I'm starting to get really a lot more interested in as we proceed through this 30-day WellFit challenge. And we're going to, extend it into a different program, which Bennett and I haven't really released to the public yet, but it's going to be a 60-day WellFit challenge, which is going to be the program after our 30-day, where we're really going to amp it up and turn up the heat and the volume.
True, like mind, body, spirit. That's
like the full deal. So,
Yeah,
man. Yeah. So it's going to be awesome stuff. So very cool, man. I've got all kinds of links I'm going to put in the show notes of this episode. Where can people find you and learn more about you and what you got going on?
Okay. First and foremost would probably be zencommuter.com. There you can you can listen to any episode of Zen Commuter, because right now, I think you know this quite possibly, is that, you might not know it yet, but you will. Once your episodes exceed 100, then iTunes just kind of keeps the last 100, and I've got 574. So if you want to listen to any episode of Zen Commuter, you can just go out to zencommuter.com, which is going to be great. And then I'm on Twitter at THOM_Walters, Thom_Walters. So that's where you can follow me. And with Twitter, that's a great place to find out what's going on with Zen Commuter, with 5 Minute Mojo, any books that are coming out that I'm writing. That's the best way to get in touch with me. And of course, if any of your listeners have any question about anything we've talked about here, or just in regards to making their lives more peaceful, more calm, more fit, more healthy, then I open my email address, THOM_Walters@mac.com, to any and all of them. If you have any questions, by all means, I'm here for you.
That's awesome. Thanks, man.
You got it.
That's very cool.
Awesome.
And while we were talking a bit ago, I actually got on my phone and I looked on audible.com to see if the Code of the Extraordinary Mind was available. And guess what? It is.
It is.
And I had one token left for the month that I did not buy anything with, so I went ahead and got it.
Nice.
So I'm going to be downloading that and listening to that, which is very cool. And it's actually, I was looking on here, it's actually narrated by him.
Oh yeah, he's the real deal, man. That guy, he's a go-getter. There's no
really
way
is.
That's
to
cool.
describe it.
So, folks, if you wanna check that out along with me, it is on Audible. So I prefer to listen to my books versus read because I got more time to listen than I do to read.
I have to get because I've read it, but I haven't. I always like to hold on to things like that and probably listen to it as well.
Hell yeah, I'm listening to that starting tomorrow. So listen to it, get it, Bennett, and we can talk about it. So if anyone else listening out there wants to check it out. And you're not familiar with audible.com and you'd like to sign up and get a free book so you can download this for yourself, just head on over to changeyourpov.com/free book and you can get a free 30-day trial and a free audio download. And you yourself can download it and start listening to that with me. And then if you like it, hit me up. We could talk about it, bring you on the show, and we can go back and forth on the Code of the Extraordinary Mind. Very cool. Hey, Thom, thanks for coming on the show, man. It was a pleasure talking with you, and you just got a wealth of information that I'm hell-bent on extracting out of that cranium of yours. And for those that don't know, Thom and I are actually in a weekly mastermind together every Wednesday, and we have an opportunity to talk to each other about different things that we're working on. We don't really get into this type of conversation, though. It's always talking about the tactics of business and, right. Everything that we're doing from a podcasting perspective. But it's really cool to get to talk to you. I was on your show last week, and we talked about masterminds and talking about meditation now. And so I really look forward to having you on the show again in the future, and we'll talk about some more stuff. Thank you so much for your time and spending it with us and the listeners of Change Your POV podcast. Folks, if you want to learn more about what Thom's got going on, then be sure to go over and check out zencommuter.com and subscribe to his podcast. He's got that morning. It's a daily commute. So if you got a commute like I do, it's in the morning and in the afternoon. And you can just plug away with Change Your POV and Zen Commuter and whatever else you listen to. But those are two great ones. And I got to tell you, Thom, you were an inspiration. Your evening commute, was it the 5-Minute Mojo? Yep. It was an inspiration for what Bennett and I have now just started as of last week, and that's our Motivation Monday. So we've got a less than 4-minute podcast that comes out every Monday. Today actually is a Monday. We're recording this, so the second episode came out of the Motivation Monday. But it's really cool, man. I see a lot of good responses. People like that short and sweet, to the point kind of, get in, get out, get some value and be done, right?
Right.
So you want to check that out. You can also check out changeyourpov.com, and we've got our podcast over there as well, and it's also on iTunes. So never miss an episode. Hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice. Make sure you subscribe to both Zen Commuter and Change Your POV. We have a lot more great content headed your way. Come be a part of our community over at Change Your POV Squad is our members site where you can go over there and interact with other members and other past guests of the show. And then you can check out our Facebook group or our Facebook page, Change Your POV, where you can catch all of the craziness that Bennett and I are doing with this 30-day, right?
Asinine.
I'm sure it's crazy.
It is crazy. Yes. So week 1, Bennett had to burn a fat shirt. Week 2, he had to write his own obituary and read it out in a cemetery. And week 3, so we got all kinds of crazy stuff, and that's all captured via Facebook Live over at Change Your POV. So go on over, check that out. It's a lot of fun, and we look forward to seeing you on social media. And Jay, stop by the website, leave us a comment, ask us a question. Do what you do, man. Get engaged, get involved, do something great. See you next time.
Take care, guys.
Thanks for listening to Change Your POV Podcast with Eddie Lazary. Check out more content by going to changeyourpov.com. And remember, your ability and willingness to change your point of view will open doors of opportunity.